In this video, I am going to be repotting Chinese elm bonsai. The type of material is the most basic you're ever going to come across. It's usually sold in big box stores or grocery stores at certain times of the year, and is probably one of the most common pieces of material that raw beginners would come across. So I wanted to demonstrate how you can repot them to gain maximum health and success in the future. If we're only just meeting, I'm Darren, and my channel is all about bringing you information and inspiration as I grow my trees through the seasons. So if you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. Now I want to honour the more experienced viewers out there. This is going to be really basic stuff. It's aimed at someone who's never repotted a tree before, who might not have much confidence. This is raw beginner. So if you're a bit more advanced in your experience, this video probably isn't going to be very interesting for you. But coming up in the next few weeks, it's repotting season. So I'm looking forward to showing you some of my more advanced projects that I've got going on. If you do stick around, I'm always learning and I always think that there's room for improvement. So if you do spot anything, drop me a comment below. Repotting is important for a number of reasons, but as a raw beginner, the most important thing to consider is the health of the root system. Generally speaking, the soil that these Chinese elms come in are not suitable for bonsai cultivation, and so working towards replacing that soil should be a priority. So the safest time to carry out a repotting and work the roots is in the spring, just as new growth is beginning. So you're looking for the new leaf buds to start getting bigger, just so show some green at the bud. Now there is a window after that time, so just as the leaves are opening, or indeed just before that time, so as the buds are swelling. This is the perfect time to be doing repotting, but as long as you're careful and respect the tree's roots, that window is fairly flexible, but it just requires more aftercare. Okay, let's jump into the repotting. Okay, this is the tree that I'm going to be repotting today. It was probably prepared for sale by giving it some heat, which has obviously made it shoot all this foliage out despite it still being winter. Now the goal is to get this tree into this container. Now we can see that the container is a bit wider but a fair bit shallower. So we're going to have to remove some material to get it into the pot. A good idea when you're repotting a tree that you're not familiar with is to start from the top, work your way down until you find that most aesthetically pleasing trunk base, which is usually the widest part where the trunk flares and the roots begin. It gives it the appearance of really gripping the ground. This piece of material, however, we can see that instead of getting wider, actually what's happening is it's getting narrower. So I'm not going to need to go down from the top. What I will do is work up from the bottom. Let's remove it from the pot. So it's not going to be too tricky to take some height off because it's just crumbling away. Now, the tool that I'm going to be using is a chopstick, which I have shaped into this point. And very gently, with a light grip, I'm going to use this to tease away soil from the roots. I'm being extra careful not to rip any roots. I'm not yanking any of the roots away. I'm simply using the tool to tease soil out from between the roots. My grip's nice and loose on the tool. I'm not ramming it in and forcing it through. I'm just gently scraping the soil in an attempt to separate it. Notice there's a thicker root here, so I'll make a note of that in my head, work around it. Dense organic matter. It might be, it's probably field soil, a sandy mixture or some sort of clay. Checking around for roots, the thicker kind. Working on any high spots of soil, try my best to ensure a flat base. So I think what's happening is there's a high spot, this thick root here and here. I'm going to remove any immediately loose lumps or clods of soil here. I'm not going to go bananas. So this root here, I'm wiggling with my finger. Looking at it, there's very little, if any, fine roots growing from this root, so removing it is completely safe. And the same goes for this root here. It's got a couple of fine feeder roots attached to it, but very little. We can go ahead and remove that. So it's still a bit wobbly, but it's more stable than it was. So now what I need to do is investigate what this root here is doing, what it's feeding, what it's connected to. I've removed enough soil from around this thicker root, so I can now tell that the root comes from somewhere here, goes along the bottom, divides, continues, and then goes back up into the root ball. I can't safely cut this root If I was absolutely confident of the health of this tree, there would be very little to stop me from investigating further and removing this root. There's probably more than enough root to support a very healthy tree in this root ball. But because I'm not 100% sure how this tree is going to react, I'm going to take the sympathetic approach and leave this in place, and I'm not going to go any further with removing soil from this area. I'm going to leave that as it is now. Now, because of the awkwardness of that big root down there, we are a bit wibbly wobbly, which isn't ideal, but we don't really want to go any further. It's important to release the roots that are growing around these edges to ensure that when we replace soil around the root ball, they can very quickly and easily establish themselves in that new soil and don't just continue to grow into this field soil in a root bound condition. So again, sympathetically, I'm going to rough the edges up until I can be confident that I'm exposing some roots. Again, I'm not trying to hack any root through any roots. I'm not worried if they're tangled. I'm not doing any combing. I'm just removing some soil to release the roots from any root bound condition that they may be in at the moment. Oh, it's horrible stuff. Ugh. There's a dense mat of roots in there. I'm not going to go any further with that bit. As you can see, the whole system's moving. I'm going to remove some soil where there aren't any roots though. If it's serving no purpose, it's fine to remove it. There's no point keeping this horrible claggy stuff for no reason. Okay, that's as far as I am going to take this root ball now. I've tried to establish a nice flat base that's going to give us a bit more stability. Obviously we're hampered a little bit by that thick root, so it's a little bit wobbly, but it's as flat as I can possibly get it. Around the sides you can see that I've started to expose some root, and where there aren't roots exposed, I've determined that hacking away at it is simply going to do more damage to what roots are growing through the soil. So I've reached my limit. I don't want to start damaging roots just for the sake of removing soil.
So a really good question at this point might be, I thought in a previous video, Darren, that you said it was best to provide soil that gives us a good balance of water and oxygen. Isn't this soil that we're keeping intact, isn't it just terrible for that balance of water and oxygen? Yes, that is true, but if we maintain a portion of this soil, we'll just have to be a little bit more careful with our watering to ensure that we get that balance of water and oxygen. We're going to be able to keep this tree alive and thriving. It's going to re-establish itself very quickly, and it's going to grow and regain strength that it would have lost through the whole ordeal of being shipped out to stores in darkness, sitting in a shop, being forced to grow when it wasn't ready. By maintaining that root ball, it's going to recover much faster and we're going to have a high degree of success. So having regained a load of strength, next year we can do a second repot. We can leave all of the roots that have established into the good quality soil alone. Roots would have migrated away from that muddy stuff.
we can take the mud away, replace it with good quality soil, and in 2 repots we would have completely renovated the root system of our tree with maximum strength and vigour in the tree, minimal risk. Okay, now it's time to tie the tree into the pot. I'm not going to pass wires over the whole root ball and tie it in that way. It looks pretty bad having those tie wires in full view. Instead, I'm going to use Ryan Neal's method of pushing some pieces of bamboo into the sides of the root system, and then I'll tie the wires off to those pieces of bamboo and then bury the wires underneath the new soil, completely out of view, giving us a really high quality finish. Before we go ahead and pot this again, I'm going to trim these roots so that any ends are nice and cleanly cut, just in case any rips did happen. This clean cut is going to ensure that the root recovers and begins growing again as quickly as possible. If there's any tears, the root just doesn't heal as quickly, so by ensuring a clean cut, we get faster healing, faster re-establishment. Well, that root is actually not doing anything at all. There's no feeder roots attached to this one, so let's go ahead and cut that back anyway. So we prepared our pot earlier, and the substrate that I'm going to be using is molar clay in the form of Sanicat pink and bark chips. To secure this tree into the pot, I'm going to use a couple of pieces of small bamboo pushed into the root ball at each side, and I'm going to tie the wires off to that. This is going to give us a really nice, snug, secure hold. I'm going to use a couple of pieces of thin bamboo. This is just stuff that they sell in garden centres. Okay. Split that in 2. Create a bit of a point. Shorten it a bit. So now it's a case of finding a place, there we go, finding a nice place where you can push that in. Like so. Looking at the base, there's a hollow section here. That's going to sit about there. So I'm going to work a bit more soil to this side. And to settle the tree down on top of the hill, I'm going to really screw it down into that mountain to form as snug a contact as we possibly can. loosely secure with my hands. Cut it to a length that's easier to work with. Pull and twist down. Pull, twist down. Pull and twist down. Pull and twist down. Pull and twist. And I can see that the wire is pulling the bamboo downwards, increasing the tension. Come around to this side. Position the wire manually to start with. Twist. Hold the tree in place. Then with the pliers, pull, twist down, pull and twist down, pull and twist down. Pull and twist down. And with each twist, the bamboo gets lower, indicating that it's nice and snug. Now to cut the wire, I'm going to twist and cut. Same again. Twist and cut. We will begin to ensuring that we make as big a mess as possible. Push soil into place. Working all that soil down. Filling any spaces. As the soil level goes down, we're going to come in again. And because of that awkward section there, going to have to really work soil down into that section. You can see that as I work the soil in, the level is coming down. The same from this angle. Everything's feeling nice and firm. Around this side. Okay, once we've ensured that we've got good soil contact all around the root ball, using our chopstick, we're going to remove any excess soil from the surface. We just want a slight lip so that it's contoured down nicely. This is going to help ensure that when we water it, it stays in the pot and doesn't just run off the edges. Just a very slight lip is perfect. So 2 more jobs to go. The first is going to be to top dress. For that, I've simply ground up some moss that I've collected from a surface that's similar in nature to the soil that I'm using. And then it's a case of watering the tree. Don't want a massively thick layer of moss. Should still be able to see through to the soil surface. Breaking up any larger chunks. Remove weeds as well. Now that I've put the top dressing on, I'm going to spray it very lightly. The spray is going to help keep the moss in place when it comes to watering. Don't want it to all get blasted away. That's the repot completed. All that's left to do now is to give it a nice watering and put it back to where it lives. Okay, that's this tree repotted. I hope you found this useful as a beginner. If you're more experienced and you've spotted anything that you think I might be able to improve, please shout in the comments. I'm always looking to learn. Let me know. So smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I hope to speak to you soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.